The rain hammered the coffin lid like God's own indictment. Each drop of accusation Matthew couldn't dodge. "He's with Mom and Dad now," his sister whispered, her voice cracking over the fresh-dug grave in that godforsaken Queens cemetery. But Matthew just stared at the mud-slick earth, tasting bile. And then the kid, his nephew, Eli, all of 13 with eyes like shattered glass, grabbed his sleeve, whispering, "Uncle Matt, don't leave me here alone." And for the first time in years, Matthew felt the old fear clawing up from his gut, the one he'd buried deeper than his brother's bones. It had been 6 months since the crash that stole Jake away, some slick highway in Jersey, a semi-truck that didn't break. And suddenly the brother who'd always been the golden boy was ash in a box. The family had scattered like buckshot after the funeral, Mom retreating to her rosary beads in the old house upstate, Dad nursing a bottle in silence, and Sarah, Jake's ex, already shacked up with some accountant from the suburbs, too broken to fight for custody. That left Eli, the boy with Jake's crooked smile and a backpack full of comic books, bouncing between relatives like a pinball in hell. And Matthew? He'd hung up on the social worker's third call, muttering, "I'm not cut out for this," before slamming the door on the ghost of his own childhood screaming in the mirror, "New York City didn't give a damn about your tragedies. It chewed you up and spat you out onto the sidewalks of Brooklyn, where Matthew had carved out his slice of survival." 38 years old, a freelance graphic designer scraping by on gigs for indie bands and queer zines. He lived in a walk-up in Williamsburg that smelled like damp brick and takeout Thai. His days blurred into nights at the Rusty Nail, a dive bar where the gin was cheap and the drag shows kept the loneliness at bay. It was there, amid the glitter and smoke, that he'd built walls thicker than the Brooklyn Bridge, walls that kept out the family he'd fled at 18, the one that had called him unnatural when they found the dog-eared copy of Giovanni's room under his mattress. But Eli, the kid haunted him. Those calls from the aunt in Staten Island, the one with the pinched face and Bible quotes, "He's acting out." Matthew, drawing pictures of boys holding hands. "We can't have that under our roof." Matthew had laughed it off then, a bitter bark that echoed in his empty loft. But it stuck like a thorn. He'd see Eli's face in the steam on his shower glass, wide-eyed, pleading, and he'd punch the tile until his knuckles bled, whispering, "Not my circus. Not my monkeys." The refusal came official on a Tuesday in October, the kind of crisp fall day that made the city feel alive while your insides rotted. The lawyer's office smelled like lemon polish and regret, a stuffy midtown suite with diplomas glaring from the walls. "Mr. All paunch and pinstripes," slid the papers across the desk. "Jake named you guardian." Matthew, "Primary. No contingencies." Matthew's fingers trembled as he lit a cigarette, screwed the no-smoking sign, and exhaled smoke like a dragon guarding its hoard. Jake was an optimist. Always thought blood meant something. "Tell the court I'm unfit. Tell 'em I'm queer as a $3 bill and twice as broke. Just get my name off this." Hargrove's eyes narrowed, the judgment as thick as the humidity outside. "The boy's got no one else stable. Foster system's a meat grinder." "You sure?" "Sure as sin," Matthew shot back, stubbing the cig on the mahogany blotter, leaving a black scar like his conscience. He bolted before the guilt could catch him, hailing a cab back to Brooklyn, the skyline mocking him with its jagged teeth. That night, he drowned it in whiskey at the Rusty Nail, letting Tommy, the bartender with the tattooed forearms and a smile that could melt steel, poured doubles until the edges blurred. Tommy slid onto the stool beside him after closing, his knee brushing Matthew's in that deliberate way that spoke volumes. They'd danced this tango before, stolen kisses in the alley. Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled like sweat and safety. Tommy was 42. A former Marine with a laugh like thunder and scars from tours in places Matthew couldn't pronounce. "You look like death warmed over, Matty," he murmured, thumb tracing the vein in Matthew's wrist. "Spill." Matthew leaned in, breath hot against Tommy's ear. "Brother's kid. Wants me to play daddy." I said hell no. Tommy pulled back, brow furrowed. "The nephew? Eli? Come on." "Kid's lost his anchor. And I'm a sinking ship." Matthew's voice cracked, the words tasting like rust. He thought of Jake, the brother who'd punched their old man square in the jaw when he'd called Matthew a fairy at the dinner table, the one who'd slipped him 20s and bus tickets when he ran. Jake had been the bridge, the buffer. Without him, the chasm yawned wide. They ended up back at Matthew's place, clothes shedding like old skin on the fire escape stairs. Tommy's hands were rough and knowing, mapping the freckles on Matthew's chest like constellations. But even as he gasped Tommy's name into the pillow, the release felt hollow. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, Tommy snoring softly beside him, and Matthew slipped out to the kitchen, brewing coffee strong enough to strip paint. He stared at the fridge door, magnet-clutched photos of Jake and Eli at Coney Island, grins wide as the ocean. "What the fuck would you do, Jake?" he whispered to the empty air. The call came at noon, shattering the fragile peace. It was Hargrove again, voice clipped like a razor. "Courts fast-tracking. Emergency hearing tomorrow. Eli's aunt just rescinded, says the boys, too much trouble. You're Matthew. Or the system's got him." Matthew's grip tightened on the phone until plastic creaked. "Fuck." He hung up and paced the loft, floorboards groaning under his boots. Tommy stirred, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Go get him," he said simply, pulling on jeans that hugged his hips like a promise. "You're more than your ghosts, Matty." But Matthew wasn't listening. He grabbed his leather jacket, the one with the rainbow patch Jake had sewn on as a joke, and stormed out into the October chill. The subway rattled him toward Midtown, each jolt a reminder of the boy waiting in limbo. By the time he hit the courthouse steps, sweat beaded his brow despite the wind. Inside, the air was stale with desperation, divorces and DUIs mingling in the halls. Eli sat in the waiting room, knees drawn up, a sketchpad clutched like a shield. He looked smaller than Matthew remembered, all elbows and knees in a hoodie 2 sizes too big, dark curls flopping over eyes that flicked up, hopeful and terrified. "Uncle Matt." Matthew froze, the sight hitting him like a gut punch. The kid's face was a mirror of his own at that age, wary, watchful, hiding bruises no one saw. He sank onto the bench, the wood hard against his spine. "Hey, kid. This is a mess." Eli's lip quivered, but he bit it back. "They say you're my dad now. But you don't want me." The words landed like shrapnel. Matthew reached out, peasant, then pulled the boy into a hug that smelled of cheap soap and unspoken pleas. "It's not that simple, Illy. But yet, I'm here." The judge was a no-nonsense woman with silver hair and eyes like flint. Her gavel a punctuation mark on mercy. Temporary custody granted? With strings, counseling, check-ins? The whole bureaucratic tango. Matthew signed the papers with a hand that shook. Eli's small one pressed against his thigh like an anchor. Back in Brooklyn. The apartment felt alien with Eli's duffel bag dumped by the couch. The kid poked around warily, fingers trailing over vinyl records and dog-eared paperbacks. "You live alone?" Eli asked. Voice small. "Mostly," Matthew said, firing up the ancient espresso machine. It hissed like a cornered cat. "Got a friend who crashes sometimes." Eli nodded, but his eyes darted to the framed photo on the mantel, Matthew and Jake, arms slung around each other at a pride parade, rainbows painted on their cheeks. "Dad said you were like him, but different." Matthew's throat tightened. "Yeah, what did he say?" "That you were brave for leaving." Eli perched on the windowsill, city lights flickering below like distant fires. "I miss him." "Me too, kid." Matthew handed him a mug of cocoa. "Extra marshmallows because fuck it. Why not start with sugar?" They sat in silence, the rain picking up again, drumming a rhythm on the pane. For the first time, the walls didn't feel so suffocating. But that night, as Eli snored on the pull-out couch, Matthew lay awake. Tommy's text buzzing on his phone. "Proud of you." "Dinner tomorrow?" He typed back a yes, then deleted it. This was his mess now, Eli's wide eyes. The ghost of Jake. The fear he'd sworn he'd outrun. Little did he know, the real storm was just brewing. The kind that would rip open old wounds and stitch new ones in their place. The first week was a tightrope walk over a pit of shattered glass. Eli moved like a shadow through the loft, testing boundaries with tentative steps, raiding the fridge for Captain Crunch at midnight, flipping through Matthew's sketchbooks when he thought no one was looking. Matthew caught him once. Charcoal-smudged fingers tracing the curve of a man's jaw in a half-finished portrait. "That's intense," Eli mumbled, cheeks flushing brick red. Matthew snatched the book back, heart hammering. "Art's supposed to be." "What's got you up?" "Bad dream." Eli shrugged, but his eyes were glassy, the kind of haunted that no kid should wear. They ended up on the fire escape, sharing a blanket against the November bite, the city humming below like a beast in repose. Matthew cracked open a beer, non-alcoholic for the kid, because rules were rules, and told stories about Jake, the time they hotwired Dad's Chevy for a joyride to the Jersey Shore, waves crashing like applause. Eli laughed, a sound like bells in a storm, but it faded quick. "He never talked about you much. Said you were off living your truth." "Your truth," Matthew echoed, the words bitter on his tongue. Jake had been the keeper of secrets, the one who'd covered for him when Mom found the lipstick in his drawer, stolen from a crush at school. A boy with freckles and a baseball swing. Truth's a luxury. Illy. Most folks just want lies that fit. Eli twisted the blanket fringe, voice barely above the traffic drone. "Am I like you?" Dad said it skips generations or something stupid. The question hung there, sharp as a switchblade. Matthew's pulse thrummed in his ears, memories flooding back, the locker room taunts in high school, the pastor's sermon on Sodom that made him puke in the church bathroom. He'd run from it all, landing in the village with a duffel and dreams, only to find the fear followed like a stray dog. Hey, he said softly, tipping Eli's chin up. If you are, that's okay. If not, that's okay too. World's big enough for both. But Eli pulled away, curling into himself. Aunt Rita said it's a sin. That dad went to hell for loving mom wrong first. Whatever. Matthew's blood boiled, hot and righteous. With her pearl clutch and prayer circles, Jake's sister-in-law from that brief, disastrous marriage. Rita's full of shit wrapped in scripture. Your dad's in the stars. Laughing at us idiots down here. They didn't talk more that night. But something shifted. A crack in the ice. Days blurred into routine. Matthew dragging Eli to school in Crown Heights. A public joint with chain-link fences and teachers who looked as tired as he felt. Pickups were chaos, kids spilling out like confetti. Eli slinking to the sedan with his hood up. Homework battles over the kitchen table. Pizza boxes as placemats. And Matthew's gigs stacking up like Jenga blocks. Deadlines looming. Tommy became the steady pulse in the madness. He showed up unannounced one evening. Arms laden with groceries, real food, not ramen, and a six-pack of craft IPA. Figured you could use a hand, he said, ruffling Eli's hair. The kid stiffened at first, then relaxed under Tommy's easy grin. The way he tossed a football in the alley until his throws arced true. Over spaghetti that tasted like home, meatballs the size of fists, sauce simmering with basil from Tommy's window herb garden, they talked shop. Tommy regaled Eli with marine tales sanitized for tender ears, sandstorms in the desert, buddies who'd become brothers. Your uncle here's the real hero, Tommy said, winking at Matthew. Saved my ass from a bar fight last summer. One punch. Bam, guys seeing stars. Eli's eyes widened, flicking between them. You guys. Together. Matthew choked on his wine, heat crawling up his neck. Tommy just chuckled. Deep and warm. Something like that. But your uncle's got a heart bigger than this city. Don't let him tell you different. After Eli crashed early, buzzed on stories and second helpings, Tommy cornered Matthew against the sink. Suds forgotten. Kid's got your fire, he murmured, lips brushing Matthew's temple. And your walls. He's not mine to break, Matthew whispered. But his hands betrayed him, fisting Tommy's shirt, pulling him closer. They made love slow and fierce on the couch. Eli's sketchpad a forgotten sentinel on the coffee table. The city lights painting their skin in neon confessions. But peace was a fragile thing, and betrayal slithered in on Thanksgiving Eve. The family dinner was Sarah's idea, a neutral ground in her new digs in Jersey City. Neutral as a minefield. Matthew almost bailed. But Eli's hopeful, can we go? For Dad, sealed it. They crossed the river in tense silence, the Holland Tunnel swallowing them whole. The house was a McMansion clone, beige walls, framed prints of lighthouses, the scent of turkey wafting from a kitchen that gleamed like a showroom. Mom hugged Eli too tight. Dad grunted hellos over his newspaper. And Rita hovered like a hawk, her smile thin as communion wafer. Sarah, hollow-eyed and tipsy on Chardonnay, pulled Matthew aside. Thanks for stepping up. He always said you'd come through. Yeah. Well, Matthew shrugged, nursing a soda. Eli vanished into the basement with cousins. Laughter echoing up like smoke signals. Dinner was a minefield navigated with small talk, jobs, whether the Mets' dismal season. But Rita couldn't resist, her fork stabbing a yam like it owed her money. Eli's been troubled. Drawing things at my house. Inappropriate things. Mom's fork clattered. Reet? Not now. Oh. Come on. Ellen. The boy's confused. Need structure? No. That lifestyle. Her eyes slid to Matthew. Venom sweet as pie. Dad cleared his throat. Voice gruff. Matthew's doing fine. Leave it. But the damage was done. Eli burst from the basement. Face streaked with tears. Sketchpad clutched like armor. You told them? About the pictures? His voice broke. High and raw. Uncle Matt said it was okay. Rita's hand fluttered to her throat. Sweetie. It's not. Shut up. Eli screamed. The word exploding like gunfire. He bolted for the door. Matthew on his heels. The room erupting in chaos behind them. The cold slapped them sober. Eli heaved against the car. Sobs wrenching from his gut. I drew. Me and this boy from school. Holding hands. She found it and freaked. Matthew knelt in the gravel. Arms enveloping the boy. Hey. Breathe. It's okay. It's not. They're all staring. Like I'm broken. Eli's fists pounded Matthew's chest. Weak but furious. Dad wouldn't care. But you get it? Right? 'Cause you're gay, Matthew supplied. The word a lifeline tossed into the dark. Yeah. I get it. More than you know. They drove home in silence. The bridge lights blurring through tears. Tommy was waiting. Takeout containers steaming on the counter. He took one look at Eli's red-rimmed eyes and pulled him into a bear hug. Rough night? Champ? Ice cream fixes everything. As Eli shoveled Rocky Road, Tommy drew Matthew into the bedroom. Door cracked. What happened? Family imploded. Rita outed the kid's crush like it was a felony. Matthew sank onto the bed. Head in hands. He's terrified. Hiding it like I did. Under the bed. In my chest. Tommy knelt. Hand steady on Matthew's knees. Then show him it's not a monster. Your proof. Maddie. You survived. But survival wasn't thriving. And the cracks widened. Eli withdrew. School notes piling up with absences. His sketches turning dark, shadowy figures with eyes like voids. Matthew dove into work. Screens glowing late into nights. Tommy's touches a bomb that couldn't heal the rot. Then came the call from Hargrove, Rita's petitioning for custody. Claims instability. Hearing in 2 weeks. Betrayal tasted like ash. Jake's shadow sister-in-law. Twisting grief into a weapon. Matthew confronted her over coffee in a sterile diner. The kind with Formica counters and fluorescent hum. But Rita? Kids finally settling. Her eyes were steel. Unyielding. Because he's family. Real family. No. Whatever this is. She gestured vaguely at him. The word faggot unspoken but thunderous. Matthew leaned in. Voice low. Jake trusted me. Not you. Jake's dead. The words landed like a slap. And Eli needs saving from your influence. he left shaking. Rage a live wire. That night, he picked a fight at the Rusty Nail, some frat boy mouthing off about the gays ruining Thanksgiving, and Tommy had to drag him out. Knuckles split and blooming purple. "This ain't you," Tommy growled in the cab. Ice pressed to Matthew's hand. "Don't let them win." But they were winning. Eli overheard the call. Packing his bag in secret? A note scrawled on notebook paper, "Sorry for being wrong. Don't fight for me." Matthew found it at dawn. Heart shattering like cheap glass. The climax brewed in the courtroom 2 weeks later. A sterile chamber where truths bared like bones. Rita sat prim, flanked by Mom and Dad, Dad's eyes averted, Mom's hands twisting a handkerchief. Eli perched between social workers, small and silent, his gaze locked on Matthew like a prayer. Hargrove presented the case: Matthew's lifestyle, the bar fights, the instability. Rita testified, voice quivering with false piety, the boy's exposed to sin. "I can give him normalcy." Matthew's turn came, palms slick on the stand. He looked at Eli, saw the fear mirrored, the hunch of shoulders, the bitten lip, and it cracked him open. "I refused at first," he admitted, voice raw. "Because I was scared. Scared I'd fail him like my family failed me. They called me unnatural, beat the questions out of me until I ran. Jake saved me then." Eli's saving me. The judge's pen scratched, the room holding its breath. And the boy's drawings? The confusion? Matthew met Rita's glare. "That's not confusion. That's awakening. And I'll be damned if I let anyone shame him for it." "Not like they shamed me." Eli stood then, voice trembling but clear. "I want Uncle Matt. He sees me." The gavel fell like grace. "Custody affirmed. Permanent." Rita's face crumpled. But Matthew felt no triumph, only a hollow ache for the family that could have been. Snow dusted the steps. The city blanketed in fragile white. Tommy waited, arm around Eli. "We got this," he said. And for once, Matthew believed it. Winter clamped down on Brooklyn like a vice. The kind that squeezed the air from your lungs and turned sidewalks to ice. Custody won felt less like victory and more like a gauntlet thrown. Matthew navigating parent-teacher conferences with a pit in his stomach. Eli's report cards a roadmap of C's and D's dotted with counselor notes. Withdrawn. Possible trauma response. Nights stretched long. The loft a cocoon of radiator hisses and half-hearted video games. Eli's controller clicks the only soundtrack. Matthew threw himself into the rhythm. A desperate choreography. Mornings, burnt toast and rushed hugs before the G train. Afternoons, picking Eli up from after-school art club, where the teacher, a wiry woman with purple streaks and a nose ring, raved about his talent. Kids got layers. Rivera said one day, handing over a canvas of swirling blues and grays. A figure half shadow, half light. "Reminds me of your sketches, Mr. Hale." Matthew tacked it to the fridge. A beacon amid the magnets. "Layers? Guess we both do." Eli's thaw came in fits and starts. One Saturday, snow piling high. They bundled up for the park, Prospect, with its skeletal trees and dog walkers braving the chill. Tommy tagged along, his presence a steady hum, tossing snowballs that devolved into a war, laughter echoing off the drifts. Eli nailed Matthew square in the chest. white fluff exploding like a starburst. "Gotcha! You little shit," Matthew grinned, tackling him into a powdery heap. Tommy refereed with mock severity, then joined the fray, piling on until they lay gasping, faces flushed, the world muffled and magical. Penning, Eli rolled onto his back, breath fogging the sky. "Feels like normal." "You know." Matthew's chest tightened, Tommy's gloved hand finding his under the snow. "Normal's overrated. This is better." But normalcy was a mirage, and the specter of betrayal lingered like exhaust fumes. Rita didn't fade quietly. Postcards arrived. Scripture-laced barbs about redemption and prodigal sons, each one fueling Matthew's insomnia. Then came the letter, certified, formal, from Dad. "Son, family's family." Rita's got a point. Eli needs roots, not rainbows. Come home for Christmas. Talk sense into this. Matthew burned it in the sink, the flames dancing blue and accusing. "Roots," he muttered to the ash. "Like the ones that choked me?" Tommy found him there, staring at the char. "Your old man's reaching out." "Maybe." "No." Matthew's voice was whip-crack sharp. "They don't get to waltz back in after torching the bridge." Tommy's jaw set. "That marine steel surfacing. Hates a chain. Maddie. Don't let it drag you under." Or Eli. The argument simmered, unspoken tensions bubbling. Tommy stayed over less, his shifts at the bar pulling him away. But Matthew felt the distance like a fresh bruise. Eli noticed too. His questions pointed. "Tommy coming for movie night? He promised Star Wars." "He's busy, kid." But the words tasted like evasion. The real fracture hit in December, a week before the holidays. Matthew's latest gig, a poster series for a queer film fest, dried up. Client ghosting with a curt email, budget cuts. Bills stacked like accusations, rent. Eli's braces consult. The therapy copays that drained the checking account dry. Desperation clawed. And Matthew did what he always did, hit the rusty nail, drowning doubt in amber liquid. He didn't remember the tab, 3 rounds, 4, or the guy at the end of the bar. All slick charm and cologne. Buying shots with eyes that promised escape. "What's his name of Derek?" Devin leaned in close. Breath whiskey warm. "You look like you need to forget." And God help him. Matthew did. They tumbled into a cab, hands fumbling. The ride a blur to a hotel off Flatbush where sheets smelled of bleach and regret. It was frantic, mechanical, bodies colliding without the poetry Tommy brought, the knowing touch that unraveled him. Dawn found Matthew retching in the bathroom. Derek snores a chainsaw through the door. He ghosted out, shame a lead weight, hailing a train back to Brooklyn as the city stirred. Eli was up when he stumbled in, cereal bowl abandoned on the counter. "Where were you? Said you'd be home by midnight. Work ran late." Like slick as oil. Eli's eyes narrowed, old soul sharp. "Smell like a distillery." Tommy called. Worried. Matthew's stomach lurched. "Mind your business, Eli." The kid flinched, but fired back. "You're supposed to be better than this," Dad said. "Your dad's dead." The shout echoed, vicious and irreversible. Eli recoiled, tears springing hot, bolting to his room. The door slammed like judgment. Matthew slid down the wall, head in hands, the whiskey churn souring to self-loathing. Hours later, Tommy's key turned in the lock, spare he'd never asked for back. He took one look at the wreckage and pulled Matthew up into the bedroom, away from Eli's muffled sobs. "What the fuck? Maddie?" Tommy's voice was low thunder, hurt laced with fury. "Some guy at the bar texted me a pic. Hotel keycard in frame." "That you?" Matthew's confession spilled, broken and bare. I panicked. The money, the family, felt like drowning. Tommy's face crumpled, the betrayal a knife twist. "I'm not your lifeboat. I'm your partner." Or was. He grabbed his jacket, the door clicking soft behind him, a quieter devastation than any slam. Eli emerged at noon, eyes puffy but resolute. "You hurt him. Like Rita hurt us." "Yeah." Matthew's throat ached. "I did." They spent the day in penance, Christmas lights strung haphazardly, baking cookies that burned black, Eli's grudging forgiveness in the shape of a shared laugh over charred edges. But the loft felt emptier, Tommy's absence a void. Matthew texted apologies into the ether. "I'm sorry. Come back. We need you. But silence answered. New Year's brought a fragile truce. Eli's school play, a mangled take on A Midsummer Night's Dream, cast him as Puck. All mischief and masks. Matthew sat front row, heart swelling as Eli pranced on stage, voice cracking but bold. Backstage after, roses in hand, Eli hugged him fierce. "Thanks for coming." Alone. Wouldn't miss it. But the words caught Tommy's empty seat a phantom ache. The thaw deepened in January, therapy sessions peeling back layers like onion skin. With her no bullshit afro and laugh like wind chimes, pushed Matthew, refusal's fear in disguise. "What are you really scared of?" "Losing him," Matthew admitted, glancing at Eli in the waiting room. Nose in a graphic novel. "Like I lost Jake. Like I'm losing myself." "And Tommy?" Matthew's fingers twisted the armrest. "He deserved better. Then fight for it." "Humans messy." Matthew. "Grace is in the trying." Eli's sessions bore fruit too, sketches lightning, colors bleeding in. One night, over takeout lo mein, he slid a drawing across the table, 3 figures under a rainbow arch, hands linked. "And Tommy, if he comes back." Matthew traced the lines. "Throw tight. Beautiful. Kid." The call came mid-February, Valentine's shadow looming. Tommy's voice on the line, rough from disuse. "Coffee?" Neutral ground. The diner was a relic, checkered floors, jukebox crooning Sinatra. Tommy slid into the booth, looking worn, stubble thicker, eyes shadowed. "Heard about the play." "Eli killed it." "Yeah." Matthew stirred sugar into black coffee, granules swirling like storms. "Miss you." Tommy's sigh was an exhale of smoke. "Miss you too. But trust Maddie. That's earned. I fucked up. Royally." Words tumbled, the panic, the hotel, the self-sabotage rooted in family poison. "You're my anchor." Eli's too. Tommy's hand covered his. Callus's rough poetry. "Then prove it." No more running. They kissed in the parking lot. Snow flurrying soft. A promise sealed in salt and slush. Homecoming was tentative, movie nights resuming. Tommy's duffel by the door. Eli watched wary at first, then melted. The three of them a unit forged in fire. But climax loomed. Betrayal's echo in Rita's final gambit. She showed up unannounced one March afternoon. Eli home sick with a fever. Matthew mid-gig on the couch. Her knock was insistent. Face pinched as ever. "I need to see him." Court said supervised. But, out. Matthew blocked the door. Voice steel. "He's my blood." "Your blood?" You tried to rip him away. Rage boiled over. Years of resentment spilling. Called him sinful for loving like me. Like Jake wished he could. Rita's mask cracked. Tears genuine for once. I was scared. For him. For all of us. Scared's no excuse. But something in her vulnerability, raw, stayed his hand. Leave the fear. Stay for the boy. She left with a nod. The door closing soft. Days later, a card arrived. "I'm sorry. Let's try family. For real." Spring unfurled tentative. Cherry blossoms dusting the streets. Eli's crush bloomed too, a classmate named Alex. Shy waves at pickups evolving to park hangs. Matthew coached from the sidelines, "Be you." The rest follows. Tommy proposed over diner pie. Ring simple silver. "Marry me, Maddie." Make it official. Tears stung. Hell yes. The wedding was small, rooftop in May. City sprawl witness. Eli best man with a speech that gutted them. "You taught me fear's just a shadow. Love's the light." But shadows lingered. Jake's anniversary hit hard. Grave visit, a ritual of weeds pulled and stories told. Eli placed a sketch on the stone, father and son. Eternal. "Miss you," he whispered. Matthew held him close. "He's here. In us." Summer scorched Brooklyn into a haze of asphalt mirages and fire hydrant sprays. Kids dancing in the arcs like urban nymphs. The loft transformed under Tommy's touch, potted ferns greening the sills. A barbecue grill commandeered for the fire escape. Ribs smoking low and slow on lazy Sundays. Marriage settled like dust motes in sunlight, vows exchanged in a city clerk's office. Rings exchanged for Eli's eye rolls and hugs. "Gross," he'd mutter. But his grin betrayed him. The boy blooming into 14 with a lanky grace that echoed Jake's. Matthew's freelance steadied. A steady gig with a queer nonprofit designing campaigns that punched above their weight, billboards of intertwined hands defying gravity. Taglines like "Love doesn't bend." Income eased the pinch. Therapy bills paid. Braces gleaming on Eli's teeth. Evenings found them 3 deep on the couch. Eli's head on Matthew's lap. Tommy's arms slung casual. Marvel marathons blurring into debates on plot holes. Yet under the idol, Fishers hummed. Eli's school year ended with a whisper of trouble, a fight in the hall. Knuckles bruised. Teacher conference looming. Some kid called me a fag, Eli confessed over ice packs. Voice flat. Said it, 'cause Alex and me. You know. Matthew's got twisted. Old scars itching. What did you do? Punched him. Eli's chin lifted. Defiant. Felt good. Then bad. Tommy, ever the vet? Nodded approval laced with caution. Standing up's right. But words? Kid, those cut deeper. Next time, walk tall. Let 'em choke on their hate. The conference was a powder keg, principal droning about zero tolerance, parents glaring daggers. Alex's mom, a lawyer with sharp bob and sharper tongue, arrived late, but her handshake was firm. Eli's a good kid. My boy's the instigator. We'll handle it. Gratitude swelled. But the incident lingered. Eli withdrawing into sketches that darkened again. Fists clenched. Faces shadowed. Matthew caught him one night, hunched over the table, pencil snapping under pressure. Talk to me, bud. Eli's voice was small thunder. What if it's always like this? Hiding. Fighting. Matthew pulled up a chair, knees bumping. It gets better. Not easy, but better. I hid too, under hoodies, in bathrooms, lying to mirrors. Thought I'd burn for it. Eli's eyes searched his. Mirrors within mirrors. But you didn't run. Not from me. The words landed soft. A benediction. Couldn't. You saved me first? Could. That fear in your eyes? Saw my own ghost. Couldn't leave you to it. Tears tracked silent. Tugged. Bony and fierce. Tommy watching from the doorway with a soft smile. That night, over rooftop stargazing, city lights dimming the Milky Way, Eli asked, You think Dad's proud? Every damn day, Matthew said. Tommy's hand warm in his. Betrayal's final echo came in autumn. Leaves carpeting the streets in crimson confessions. Rita's olive branch extended tentative, coffee invites. Then park walks with Eli. Her apologies thawing into awkward stories of Jake's youth. Mom followed. Rosary tucked away. Dad trailing with grunts that passed for peace. The first family dinner post-drama was at their upstate house, colonial relic with creaky porch and apple orchard out back. Tension crackled like dry leaves underfoot. Dad carved the roast with surgical precision. Mom's pie a peace offering. Rita sat across, eyes downcast. I was wrong, Matthew. About everything. He nodded. Fork midway. Takes guts to say. Eli bridged the gap. Chattering about school. Alex? A science fair volcano that erupted spectacular. Laughter bubbled. Tentative. Then true, Dad's bark joining. Mom's hand on Matthew's arm lingering. But the real mending came later. Porch swing creaking under stars. Dad cleared his throat. Pipe smoke curling. Should have protected you boys better. He tried. I failed. Matthew's chest ached. Old wounds cauterizing. We're here now. Dad's nod was gruff absolution. Yeah. We are. Back in the city. Life wove tighter. Tommy's bar promotion meant more hours. But date nights carved sacred, jazz clubs in the village. Hands linked under tables. Whispers of forever. Eli's first real kiss happened under the bleachers at a soccer game. Alex's freckles blushing in the report. It was. Good weird, he confided. Matthew's advice echoing, slow. Honest. Yours. Fall deepened. Thanksgiving a redo, their table. Not jerseys. Rita brought pie. Mom her famous stuffing. Dad a bottle of scotch they cracked at midnight. Toast rang, to second chances. To the messy miracle of blood and chosen. Eli's sketch graced the center, family tree. Roots entwining rainbows. Winter circled back. Softer this time. Eli's 14th birthday fell on a snow globe Saturday. Party at the Rusty Nail, drag queens as uncles. Cake towering like a crown. Tommy officiated the candle blowout. Matthew snapping photos. Heart full to bursting. But the story's heart beat in quiet moments. Eli's coming out. Whispered over cocoa one blizzard night. I'm gay. Uncle Matt. Like you. Like Dad maybe wished. Matthew pulled him close. Tears hot. Welcome home, kid. Tommy joined. Arms enveloping. Proud as hell. Spring bloomed defiant. Pride Month a riot of color. They marched, Matthew and Tommy hand in hand. Eli waving a flag taller than him. Family trailing tentative behind. Rita cheered from the sidelines. Mom's sign reading love wins. Dad's nod solemn. Famous, if it could be called that. Crested in June, a gallery opening for Eli's art class. His pieces on display, fear transmuted to fire. Shadows yielding to light. Critics murmured. Buyers snapped photos. But Matthew saw only the boy. Standing tall amid the swirl. You did this, Tommy whispered. Kissing his temple. No. We did. Summer returned. Cycle unbroken but bent toward grace. Matthew's novel, memoir disguised as fiction, found a publisher. Pages spilling secrets long buried. Tommy read drafts by lamplight. Edits gentle as touches. Eli illustrated the cover, 3 silhouettes against a dawn sky. Fears fled. The ending came unhurried. On a fire escape in August heat. City pulsing below. Eli, now 15 and lanky, sprawled with a guitar Tommy'd gifted. Chords fumbling into melody. Think Dad's watching? He asked. Strum soft. Matthew, beer in hand. Tommy's head on his shoulder. Gazed at the stars peeking through smog. Every note. Every damn one. And in that harmony, thought. Familial, they found absolution. Not perfection, but presence, love's quiet revolution. Fear's final surrender. The world spun on. Jagged and beautiful. But they held fast. Roots deep in Brooklyn soil. Branches reaching for whatever sky came next.